Hello and welcome back to Success is Never Accidental, the show where we get to explore the mindset for success and all the various factors that contribute to success. And I get to interview some highly successful people. My guest today is Ronny Leber. Ronny is based in Vienna and is a much sought after event host for corporate events, sporting events, and TV shows. In fact, he's over 1,500 hours of TV experience and he's captivated more than 5 million people at live events with his charismatic and engaging style. Ronny has worked with top brands like Mercedes-Benz, Coca-Cola, and Samsung, and his goal is to make every event unforgettable. Perhaps that's why he finished on the podium for Boxing Ring Announcer of the Year in 2023. He's also a very successful and sought-after business coach and keynote speaker, and was recently nominated by the New York City Journal as one of the top 30 business coaches to look out for in 2022. So please help me welcome Ronny Leber. Hello, Ronny, and thank you so much for joining us today. It's so good to see you again.
Great to see you too, Lynne. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here.
Ronny, my audiences are mainly in the public sector, and life can be tough sometimes, and sometimes they have a lot of setbacks. And just when we were talking earlier, we were looking at just like how COVID impacted everybody. In my world, it was about the breakdown of teams and people feeling isolated and whatnot. But for somebody like you, whose life is about audiences and live events, what was the impact of COVID?
Well, the impact was quite severe because all the events were shut down. There was nothing happening. So it was really, I remember when in February of 20 or March of 2020, actually, when everything was shut down, I thought, well, okay, I'm going to have now 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks where I'm just going to work on my website and so on, and then we'll be back. Well, as we all know now, that didn't happen. So it was an interesting thing, or an interesting episode also what happened in terms of the emotional state. Because first it was like, well, okay, that sucks, but well, we're back in a moment. But then you go through all kinds of emotions. And it was really about managing your emotions. I think COVID was also on so many different levels about managing your emotions. Now when we're looking back, it's like, okay, yeah, it happened and we all went through it, everybody. But at the moment, everything was really, really emotionalized.
And what changed for you? So when the live events all got cancelled, you worked on your website, but you and I both know you can only do that for so long. So what did you do next? How did you bounce back from that level of adversity?
So for me, it was really about finding a way to make an income or make a living, even though there were no live events. And the great thing for me was that I transitioned into television. So I was, for 16 months, I was on TV as an anchorman, as a host. I was 1,500 hours live on TV. I really used the time perfectly, and it really built me and set me up to be even more successful now, because obviously every setback is also an opportunity. I might have never made the transition if COVID did not happen. But it did. And so it's always, all right, what's the good in this? You can always focus on what is not working great. But also there are always opportunities, and there are people who take those opportunities and then they are stronger afterwards, and people who are not. So the great thing is, it's up to you. It's your choice, whoever you want to be.
Yeah. And our life is dictated, isn't it, by the choices that we make, and particularly by what we choose to focus on. So what are you focusing on right now? Because you have such a diverse portfolio of interests, because you're also a business coach.
Absolutely. One more thing actually about the focus, because at any moment in time, you can focus on there are 3 things that are always that you can choose. At any moment in time, you can make 3 decisions. The first one is what to focus on. Like, what am I really focusing on? Because there are always a million things you can focus on in any given moment. Focus on something inside of you or something that is outside of you. focus on things that are inside of your control or that are not in your control. And always I've learned that it's usually better to focus on the things that are inside of your control because that's something that can change. The second thing that you decide in any given moment is, what does it mean? So first you focus on something, but what does it mean? What's the meaning of that? And the meaning is also going to control, of course, what you feel about that. And thirdly, the third decision is, what are you going to do about it? What action are you going to take because of that? And those three things, what to focus on, what does it mean, and what action you take, this is going to determine a lot of the quality of your life or the situation of your life that you're in. So for me, what's really important is always, especially when you're wearing a lot of hats and moving from A to B to C, is really planning. It's really about creating a plan for my week, also creating a vision, like where do I want to go, first of all, and then breaking it down, having different goals that I'm working on, but really, how do I allocate my time? And doing this, I have a weekly ritual to really plan my week. It takes some time, like about 90 minutes every week, maybe sometimes 2 hours, but it's the best 90 minutes, 2 hours that I'm spending every week.
So important, isn't it? Because otherwise we just get busy, but we're not necessarily productive and we're not necessarily focusing and taking action on the things that are most important to us. So when do you schedule that 90 minutes? Is that like the beginning of the week or the end of the week? What works best?
Well, usually it is on Sunday in the afternoon or evening. Here's a little caveat to that. Because I haven't been doing this for some years, and I was always kind of struggling with managing my time. Time was flying, and I was like, man, I need to plan. And if you're in a relationship or you have family and so on, and then maybe the weekend doesn't work. So you really have to find a sustainable way. And the reason why it's working now great is because my wife and I decided to do it together. Because when you're doing it together, then it's a common activity. It's something that both of you are profiting from. So everybody's, of course, planning their own week, but we do it at the same time.
Brilliant.
And that's so amazing because then you have a common ritual, you keep yourself or you hold yourself accountable, and both of you are really making progress together. And that's awesome.
And lots of points that come out of that. One is the importance of planning. The second is the importance of scheduling your planning so that it becomes a discipline or a ritual. And the third thing is we will always do better if we do things with somebody else. If we have a buddy, it can be your partner, can be a friend, can be a work colleague. But I think everybody does better if they have a buddy to hold them accountable. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you're such a busy person, and yet I know we met in the Tony Robbins environment, Ronnie, where we volunteered there. You've given almost 2 decades of your life to serving others in that environment. Why is it important for leaders to show up and give back?
I believe that there are several reasons. On the one hand, it's always beautiful to give without the expectations of receiving, because it just opens up a totally different spectrum inside of you. Also, it usually creates an aura of abundance. And at the same time, there's a lot of gratefulness involved as well. Gratefulness on the one hand for the gifts that you received. At the same time, a lot of gratefulness that you're receiving from others, from the people that you're working with or that you're contributing to. What's also beautiful is this besides all of those honorable and beautiful causes, you're also growing. You're also growing as a person, you're growing as a leader, and you're also growing your influence, and you're growing your impact. And I believe at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, it's really about how much impact are you having on the people around you as a leader?
And I couldn't agree with you more. Exhausted, absolutely done by the time we'd been at a sort of 6 or 7 day event with Tony, but you always left left it glowing, somehow elevated, somehow in a different place, physically wrecked, but psychologically and emotionally so much stronger. Yeah, yeah. So, and one of the amazing things about that environment, and I guess by the environment that you're in constantly, is the importance of networks and relationships. Can you say something for our audience about why it's worth investing in building relationships and having networks?
This is one of the most important success recipes that I've had in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have had the privilege and the honor of working at amazing events, also with amazing brands. And usually most of the really, really cool stuff came out of networking. And I'm not talking about going there in order to expect to receive. It's really about creating a relationship with somebody. And I'm talking about a human to human relationship. So when you meet somebody, it's really not about seeing in front of you just a transaction that like, okay, I'm going to put something in this relationship in order to get something. It's really about building this human or heart-to-heart communication. And with many of my clients also, I do have a very amicable, very friendly, also very humorous relationship, because it's just so much more fun to work with people that you like, that you're having fun with, and that you can laugh together with. And that's the beauty of really also then choosing who to work with.
And I think the point that you keep making over and over again is being in relationships without expectation. And I always say, whenever you're trying to form a relationship, look at how you can add value to the other person. And it always comes back in some way, but not necessarily. I think when you do good, when you make choices to do the right thing, when you add value to others, it's like you pay it forward and just your life is enriched in the process.
Exactly. Be there to give first.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So you've been incredibly successful, but success is such an individual concept, Ronny. What does success mean to you?
Success means for me the freedom of doing what I love to do, when I want to do it, with who I want to do it.
Perfect. And if you had one insight that you want to share with our audience today about the key factors for success, what would that be?
The first key factor is know what you want to do and why you want to do it. The reason for me why I am doing today what I'm doing today is because 16 years ago, I asked myself for several weeks and months the same questions over and over again. And it was all about, what am I passionate about? And the questions were, what do I love to do in my free time? What do I spend money on? What moves me emotionally? What is it that I'm talking about with my friends? What is it that already as a little kid moved me, that as a kid got me excited? And I was asking those questions over and over again. And after weeks and months, it all came down to the same thing. Already as a kid, I was excited about events that bring the whole world together, like Olympic Games or a soccer World Cup, where you feel that everything is moving around this event at that moment. And I thought, wow, that's an area that I would love to work at. I had no idea at that moment, how am I going to monetize that? What am I going to do with that? But I knew my why. I knew my passion. I knew the fire that was gleaming inside of me. The next step was about figuring out the what. What exactly do I want to do in that environment? And once you know the why and the what, the how is easy. I mean, I'm not saying that it's like it just happens. You really need to do something, but the how is just a strategy. But you first need to figure out the why and the what. You're going to figure out the how afterwards.
So first know your passion, what drives you, what juices you, and then figure out how you're going to get there and be visionary about it. But then you have to be very committed and disciplined and stay on purpose. So what what do you do we've heard about your planning, but how do you make sure that you stay on purpose for 2024?
Well, first of all, if you have a great why, then that's pulling you there automatically. And I think that's really the homework that you need to do up front. If you don't have a why that's really pulling you and where you're totally excited about it, then you don't have a why. And then that's where you need to start. Also, what I'm doing every year, also as a ritual together with my wife at the beginning of January, in the first week, we always create our vision board for the year. We create a poster, and you know what I'm talking about. But in general, it's with a mission statement, with the top 3 to 4 goals of the year, the rules and values that you have, and those kind of things. So it's really something, it's kind of like, all right, this is my life on a poster for 2024. And then obviously with the weekly planning, it's really about how am I moving there? How am I making progress towards those goals? And then of course, on a daily way, you check like, am I on track? Is this something I need to adjust? But that's all fine as long as you have the big picture and you know where you're moving to.
So it's that combination, isn't it, of the big picture, and the vision board's kind of like your anchor that you keep checking in and keeps you grounded. Ronny, my friend, thank you for joining us today. It's been wonderful to have you share your insights and your wisdom. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of 2024.
Thank you. All the best to you as well, of course, and to everybody who is listening. Enjoy and really find your passion and go after it.
Thank you, Ronny. Amazing learning from our guest, Ronny Leber. I just wanted to reflect on some of the things he talked about there. So regardless of what's going on in life, he said, we always have choices. And it's important particularly to choose what we focus on. And it's always better to focus on the things that are within our control. Then it's important that we choose the meaning we give to the things that are happening. And also, and particularly important, choose what it is we're going to do about it. And one of the things that we can all choose is to take control of our own lives. And to do that, we need to understand what drives us. What do we really want from our lives in terms of family, work, experiences? And for Ronny, that was he and his wife actually created a vision board for the year so that they could plan for the whole year, but then do weekly and even daily check-ins to make sure that they stayed on track. And Ronny also talked about, as leaders, that we have responsibility to keep growing and developing ourselves, but also that we have a responsibility to contribute to the growth and development of other people in our community, in society generally. And he talked about contributing without expectation and coming from that place of gratitude. And of course, always being willing to pivot in the face of challenges and looking at how having to do something very different, like TV work instead of live events, actually boosted his career. So some really important insights there from our guest today, Ronny Leber. And you can follow Ronny on LinkedIn. Join me next time on Success is Never Accidental so that we can get some more insights and wisdom into the philosophy and the strategies for success.